Hello, I'm Doug Olson.
Doug, okay.
Mary Kate Bell.
Mary Faith.
Aaron Scar.
You can sit there at the town hall.
I am so
Thank you.
Thank you. Your editor. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, call me Mary Jane or MJ, either one.
What's your preference?
MJ.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll probably respond quicker.
Well, MJ, welcome. Thank you for joining us and thanks for applying.
Welcome. Just interested in helping out and getting involved in my community.
Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we don't have questions to ask you like an official interview apart from the questions on the application. So we're just going to go around the table and ask you to expound on your
Okay.
answers and other things as they may occur to us. So I wonder if you could tell us a little more about yourself, how long you've lived in Tillamook County, where you've lived before, just a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, as long as you don't hold it against me. That's why I deliberately left out the state of reference.
Must be California.
Yes, California. It's been an interesting reception. Some people, I guess, have attitude about Californians.
They do.
It's like going to Europe and you say you're an American.
American.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, I was born and raised in California, and after working 3 jobs and doing all sorts of stuff, I couldn't afford to retire there. So I've been up here since 1963. I knew the area. And what was important to me is something flat. I'm quite a bit older than I look. And so that, and the property I was on was too steep, and I looked around, couldn't find anything, so I ended up moving up here. So I've been here for almost 2 years. And, you know, I'm needing some adult conversation, and I love research. I like behind the scenes. I was manager at several places in hospitals and also with the college, and a lot of work's behind the scenes, you know, drafting the accreditation documents and that kind of thing. So did that answer it sufficiently?
Yes, and I noticed on your application it says you live on Curl Road.
Yeah.
So it just reminded me about the Curl Bridge. Had you already lived there when the bridge failed?
No. When I turned onto Curl Road from Kilchis River, when I was looking at the house, the first thing that came to my mind, if it floods, you won't be getting in and out. And so a couple, I don't know, it was December, there's 4 feet of water on Curl Road. So, yeah, no, there's a proper bridge. It's not all paved, it's a farm road.
Mhm.
And where I come from is a rural area, farm road. So, yeah.
It's a beautiful area.
Oh, it's quite lovely, and I have a great view, and I'm quite happy.
Nice, okay. All right, thanks. Well, we'll just go around the table.
Okay, perfect. Well, I lived in California for a few years, so.
Oh, good.
So I have a
Good.
soft spot in my heart for California, so you're okay, just look over at this end of the table, it'll be
Okay.
all right.
But
From Oregon, but I spent my time there
I'm
too.
encouraged.
Well, good. So, MJ, in looking at, you had talked a little bit about special contributions you could make to this committee. Can you dig a little bit deeper into special budgetary contributions and skills? Talking a little bit more about your experience with budgets and finances.
Well, let's go back to my 20s. That's quite a bit long ago. I was recruited to go to a rural hospital, 68 beds, and assistant director, take over the ICU and the ER. They had a revolving door for the director, and they had a lot of accreditation, red marks. So I had over $1 million budget for the ER, and on my watch, I think I was there 7 or 8 years, we built a brand new ER. And we had to dovetail in with the nuclear power plant in the backyard. So we had to have an ER that had the outdoor showers and stuff. It was a pretty cool thing. Went from well, I don't even think the ER, the original, was even the size of this room, half the size of the room, to an amazing space age at that time. And, you know, $1 million budget was a lot for the ER, and I'm in my early 30s. And then I also had the ICU. So between the two, I had about 45 staff members, nurses, medical assistants, secretary type people. And I attended every medical staff meeting, and, you know, when you wanna buy equipment, you have to put your budget out there. And there's a deadline. You know, there's the original, and then you get down to the final and you negotiate, and the same thing in the college setting. I was recruited from the hospital as a clinical nurse to teach at the community college level. So a lot of my background is in nursing administration and education. So I go there, I'm a rookie, you know, I don't even have tenure yet, and I'm asked if I will represent the nursing department at the budget planning. We had budget planning together. So you go there, the superintendent's there, and you have, you know, salaries, you have infrastructure, you have all the kinds of things that you have, well, not all the kinds of things, but you have similar things that you'd have in a community. I've not done stuff at the government level, this is municipality, but community college is county run where I came from.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a county and pretty big place, pretty big budget, and of course, you wait for Sacramento, excuse me, you wait for, Sacramento, to tell you what your budget is mid-May, and then you have to adjust it. Then you go back to the table, and those meetings were pretty sparky, to say the least. We had a faculty union, which they had their own ideas about COLA, state issued a COLA. That was taken care of outside of the budget planning. But when you have X amount of dollars for, like, what do you say, in those days, internet, community, online education classes, that we were one of the first colleges to put that in the early 90s. So, you know, you're negotiating, and then you set your priorities, and of course, the college has accreditation. And so, like I said, the only level I haven't done is city or count, other than the college. So does that?
it does, thank you very much.
Okay. I have to make sure I'm answering the question, I'm not getting too far off topic.
You said you volunteered at various community organizations. What other type of organizations within a community have you volunteered at?
Well, straight out of school, it was Search and Rescue. And then American Heart. And community band. Let me go to my, this was a youth ranch for horses, abused kids and abused horses. Friends of the Library, officer at large for the community band. I was a panelist at the Community Leadership Foundation, you know, so they wanted me to come speak. So I volunteered to do that. I was headmaster for a Christian school. Nursing Association, I sat 4 years as the regional treasurer for California Nurses Association. And the 5 regions, if you're familiar with California, it's like way long compared to Oregon. And the regions in the South are huge. Not too many people, but so I represented 5 of those, and it was 4 years. We met every 3 months in Sacramento. And again, you had this huge budget, and it fed into the State Nurses Association and the national. We were affiliated with the national. So, and let's see, I guess that's a mission trip to Monterey. It's pretty diverse. I don't sit around and twiddle my thumbs. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you.
So could you tell us which hospital system, the name of the system? The reason is we have one here. I'm wondering if it's the same.
No, it started out, we had a district hospital, which was county-run, county hospital, paid for by taxes. And I got into nursing before it became a business in the hospitality industry, okay? And the others were in the area, were owned by doctors individually. And then in the late 80s, we had a corporate, American Medical International, AMI, come in. I think they're now called Tenet. They have hospitals all over California. And in the late 80s, we had what we called DRGs, where you get paid based on how many tonsillectomies and appendix removals, etc. You know, it's all very widget-oriented, if you will. So, no, we didn't have, currently, right now, I think who owns some of the hospitals I work, one of them is it's a Catholic diocese, and they're a nonprofit, and they own one in the neighboring city, out of the county, and I think they own maybe one or two in the county now. The others are still owned by the big corporate tenant.
Well, I'm just curious, this is an Adventist
Right.
affiliated here, you probably already know that.
Right.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and by the way, my sister-in-law lives in Sacramento, and my
Okay.
daughter used to live in Folsom.
Oh, good.
So we kind of all.
Good, at least you know where,
Yeah,
yeah.
so-
Well, I
yes,
was
we
born and
do.
raised in Stockton, which is 40 minutes from
Yes, I
Sacramento.
know, right.
Yeah.
So, government accounting and private sector accounting are similar, but they're different. Could you tell us what your understanding is of one versus the other?
I hope I can. Government versus private. I guess I'm more familiar with private,
Mhm.
right? Well, government, I think you have the statutes, and you call them here statutes, we call them rules and laws, the ORS. And my understanding from my little research here is that 294.393, it delineates the scope of the county funding, is my understanding. So, and also, it seems like the county, the government, you interface, whatever word you want, with the federal. You know what I mean? You can get funds, you can get grants. Special monies allotted, like right now, when we declare an emergency, we can get funds to repair bridges and things like that. So that's a bit different. When you have the nonprofits, people are donating and they get their name on the room, you know what I mean? And of course, the college, that was all based on what came out of the state government. 4 community colleges, which was never a line item in California. K through 12 was, community colleges were just hanging out, and then you had the universities there funded. The community colleges never had a line item anywhere, so we were always fighting for money, you know what I mean? So, yeah, there are differences. My dad was an enrolled agent. He taught accounting in a community college for 13 years. One of my first jobs out of the house was in the accounting office for 5 years. I got a year in an MBA program. I had graduate courses in accounting. There was one of the reasons I signed up for this committee, because it's some things that I already know and things I want to learn, because I'm interested in learning. And so, anyway, did that,
That's fine, thank
Okay.
you. I think
Okay.
we're getting there.
okay. It's easy to get off track.
That's okay. Well, you kind of just answered my next question, which was why specifically the budget committee?
Because when I moved here, interesting experience, when I moved here, it occurred to me 3 days after being here that I needed to look up online how to estimate my taxes and pay my quarterlies, because I spent the first quarter in another state. And I took the forms down. I also realized the language was very different than I was used to. And so, and then I'm in a water district that is, I guess how you want to say, they're being challenged. So we're dealing with budget and planning and bylaws and agreements. And when I was doing curriculum and budget and planning, and the nursing curriculum was integrated, and some of my skill set is, I think I mentioned that, I can often see the big picture, but then I can get focused on the details. Not very many people have the right brain, left brain connecting, you know what I mean? It's either one or the other. So, and I've been told that by people. I've been recruited. I was recruited into management. That wasn't I didn't set out that direction, you know. And then I was in the MBA program, got a call, do you want to teach nursing? You know what I mean? So I just kind of bounced around. I think I got off
It's okay.
I really got off here, didn't I? It's something I already know, something I'm interested in, and I'm pretty fascinated by some of the language in the Oregon statutes and the law. There always seems to be this gray area. And even when you look at the tax documents, if someone's coming from an accounting background, they don't even use the same language, which is intriguing to me. And I enjoy adult conversation. I enjoy working as a team, and I enjoy learning. So
Thank you.
that's it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So, the budget can be difficult and tricky to navigate. We have a lot of different priorities, a lot of different folks who have thoughts about it. What is your approach to when finances are tight, what's your approach to figuring out how to make that budget work?
I'm an eternal optimist, okay? That's probably not an asset. But as a manager, you know, what's important to me is that people are, that we make people feel like they are contributing and part of the whole. And when I'm looking at budget, when you whittle it all down, what's in the best interest of the whole, you know what I mean, for right now? What are our goals? We always had goals. We had premises for making the budget, then we had goals for the year, and we agreed on the goals. And if you keep going back to the goals and objectives, you're not going to be funding something over here that's not even on the docket. You know what I mean? And there may come time where you have to reprioritize for some unexpected thing, but then, you know, keeping people, you know, asking, if someone can't agree on whittling it down, then where are the concerns? The consensus, I don't know if you're familiar with consensus building. There's a whole book and there's a whole program in Michigan about that. I used to teach that in my classroom. It's a very powerful process where you keep going around until everyone is comfortable and they're not compromising and giving up. They're collaborating. They can buy in, okay? And I think it really goes back to being heard. You know what I mean? Like right now, I feel like you guys are hearing what I'm saying. It's really nice having adult conversation. I live with 3 beagles and a border collie. You know what I mean? So to me, it's the process. I'm big on process. And when people, what do you say? I'm not a sports person, do end runs, you know what I mean? They run outside the boundaries and go make the touchdown. That doesn't serve the organization as a whole, or in this case, the community, in my view. You know what I mean? And I know I had some pretty hardball conversations with my CEO of a hospital. He's an MBA administrator, and my nurses wanted to go to 12-hour shifts. And, you know, it's more about recruitment and retention. I said, folks, here's the budget that I was given. If you can come up with a system and you do not go 1 penny over what we're budgeted, we can do it. Well, we did it. And let me tell you the 4-letter words I got from my administrator, okay? And I thought, well, I'll just wear a bigger flak jacket, you know what I mean? But they did it. Our productivity on paper was 150%. We had almost no turnover, not a lot of med errors. We really did well because they felt like they had a part in their department. And, you know, everything from supplies and staffing, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. And so I guess I really believe that decisions are best made by a group, not by one person top down. And how can we best facilitate it and make those people comfortable? Because the one person maybe not speaking out, maybe they have the best answer in the long run for the whole group. That's always been my attitude, okay?
Perfect, thank you.
All right.
So I'm going to steal Doug from this morning. The budget committee usually only meets about 3-4 days out of the year. Plus we have one mid-year budget update, which right now I don't have a budget committee, so we're not meeting at the moment. It's usually 2 full days and a half day in April and then a half day in May. Is that something that you would be available for?
Yes, the only thing in May, the 1st of May, I'm going to California for all my medical stuff.
May 8th. Yes, sir.
I should be back.
It's either May 8th or May.
Yeah, yeah,
15th.
yeah. It's the first weekend in May.
With everything we do, there's
Yeah,
remote
yeah, yeah.
option first.
Yeah, I should be back that day. Yeah. I'm going every 6 months. There aren't too many resources up here. And it's a lot easier if you have physicians already, you know what I mean? So, plus I have family down there.
All right.
So.
So I'll ask one question that's a little different than what you were asked before. Government, like a lot of organizations, occasionally borrows money for one thing or another. Have you had any experience or knowledge in debt instruments or how businesses or governments finance certain things?
You like bonds?
Like bonds or, yes, bonds
Well,
probably.
college did those.
Yes, and there's some other ways, but let's say we had the courthouse fell down and we had to build a new one, something, maybe that's extreme, but how would, what can you tell us about what you know about financing?
Well,
Borrowed money somehow.
that's a good question. I'm resourceful, okay? I would get online and look at how other people do it, and I pretty much have my ear to the ground on what nationally we do and federal monies. There's a lot of untapped grants and monies and bonds. We did a lot of bonds at the college. And there's a footwork that you have to do to get the word out. And then you have to only use the money, like, you can't dip into foundations and things like that from the college. There's a way to use it. There's rules around that. And to me, if you have rules, you just navigate those rules. There's grants, there's bonds, you can borrow money, but you have to have a good credit rating to do that, you know what I mean? And then you have to figure out if, you know, the people that you're like adding to their taxes, can they afford it? You know, is that appropriate? And then getting a sense from the community if they're up for supporting the bond before you just put it on the docket. You know what I mean? If you don't have buy-in from the community, and I think I said on there, I'm willing to go to town halls and collect information for the group, if that's what you want. If you wanted a presentation, if you tell me what you want, I'd be happy. I was in the classroom for 27 years. I'm real comfortable in the classroom. So do I know all the ins and outs of government stuff? No, but I'm a pretty good, a very resourceful person. Let's just say that, okay? And I'm not afraid to say, is this an option, is this an option, is this an option? And you can say, no, you know, go find something else. And I will, so.
Fair enough.
We have just a few minutes left. Do
Okay.
you have a question?
What is your ideal committee member from the public? What does that look like?
For me, I think the citizen members of the community, or of the committee rather, are very important because they're representing the community. So I would hope that our citizen committee members they have some way of connecting to and listening to the community about what's important to the community. So that's on the list, but, you know, it's certainly not the only thing, but that's on my list.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's important that you have a basis in budgeting so that, because this is a very complicated budget. I was on the budget committee for 2 years before I was a county commissioner, and it's complicated to understand all the ins and outs and operations of the county. So having some financial background is exceptionally helpful in being able to jump in with both feet. But then it is the fact that we are so embedded in the work of the county that it's really helpful to have that outside set of eyes that doesn't live this every day, that's able to say to us, I see what you're thinking, but here's a different window you might look at it through. So it's providing some of that perspective that's just different from what we have being in it every single day.
Okay.
I think I can agree with that. It's just having a different perspective, and being able to, I don't want to say shape somebody's way of thinking, but being able to throw a different perspective out to somebody that you may see out in the community that maybe we're not seeing in here.
Right.
Well, I've been on the budget committee for close to 20 years. I'm long time
So
before.
you're a poster person.
I guess, I don't know, and I've done lots of budgets my whole career, so That's why I got on the budget committee. A budget, in my view, is an expression of your values, of your moral values, so to speak. If you can't fund this and you fund that, that's a decision that becomes consequential to many, many people. And so what I look for is someone who can think, someone who has some logic, and someone who's not afraid to say no. And then the reason you say no is because A, B, C, D. You can speak your mind, and the people will understand that. There's some logic, there's some emotion, and as long as I've been doing this, you will never get 100% buy-in on anything, because everybody asks for more than there are resources to satisfy. On the other hand, you ultimately end up with something that must work, and you have to learn to prioritize. So lots of things, and it sounds like you've got a pretty analytical mind, so you probably can handle all that, but you also would take some criticism along the way, probably.
Right. Well, and I think also it doesn't sound like, I mean, I tend to be a cyclist and a kayaker, so I'm out there by myself. One of the reasons I want to do this is I'm gonna get involved in the pickleball stuff, so you're gonna meet more people. And I do play golf as well, but that would be, I don't know everybody in the community. I do spend a lot of time, I meet a lot of people in the markets and stuff, and I've had some amazing conversations with people. But I probably don't, I don't know everybody yet. So
Sure.
maybe I'm not the person, but that's okay. I just want to see if I have what you need, you could help. And I do listen to the Tuesday morning radio thing. That's where I hear you come on, and you're very articulate, and the outgoing Mr. Yamamoto, is that his name? Phenomenal person. And now you're on there for the last couple of weeks. And I just love that the community, if they want to know, you guys just put it out there and keep us in the know. I value that. I dare say I know more than my neighbors about what's going on here.
Right, very well.
And I like that format. It moves along. You hear from everybody. I went to the town hall where the sheriff was.
Oh, that's where.
Yeah, the library.
Yeah.
And my brother was a, undersheriff.
Nice.
And he worked for 37 years, right next door to the college. Anyway, so, yeah, I mean, I enjoy that kind of thing. So, and I remember names and that kind of thing,
Nice.
so, anyway. Okay,
Well,
well,
thank you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to rush you out, but we have someone else coming in 1 minute.
No, that's sorry. And they
I know,
told
we're
me
kind
that
of tightly scheduled
you would
today.
tell me where the door is so I
Yeah.
don't get lost. She told me this was a jail, and I said, whatever we do, don't let me get lost in the jail.
Our offices used to be jail cells.
Yes.
Which is kind of hilarious.
It is. So anyway, well, thank you very much, and it's
Thank you.
nice to
Oh,
meet
nice to meet
you.
you.
And you're new on board, and I appreciate that you're with us.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Nice to see you.
Here we go. Right,
Thank you.
I'll follow me. Thanks so much for coming in.
No problem.
Hope your drive was good.
Well,
Was it okay?
yeah, the Coral Grove was the worst.
Darn it.
Okay, so go that way, right?
Yes.
Hey,
Thank
thanks
you.
again. It's nice to meet you in person. Yeah.
Mr. Bender, you know the Mr. Bender? I don't know him.
Yeah, I think we're starting at like 30 before I get to the block. It's been one every day.
Where's that coming from?
What, we have to mute
Isabel. That sounds like Kevin.
Yeah, probably is.
Should have asked her where she heard about this. It's helpful to know how people, she might have heard us on the radio.
That's
There's
a good chance. Yeah.
Good chance, because we can talk about it on radio.
There used to be a vendor that was up in Manzanita for a long time. I think he was an architect. He did. That's right. This guy's at the other end. of the county.
Hello.
Hello.
Paul Bender.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hi, I'm
Hi,
Mary Faith
I'm
Bell.
Paul. How do
Nice
you
to
do?
meet you.
Karen Scott,
Hey,
nice to
Erin.
meet you.
Sean Blanchard, County Treasurer.
I'm Doug Olson, the Commissioner.
Have a seat. Thank you for joining us,
Yes.
and thank you for applying.
Okay. Yes, no, they encouraged me to down south, and you know, I'll tell you, being on the water board with our budget process last year, I went out and started looking at the water departments in Lincoln City and Pacific City, and ended up at Manzanita, and then I got to see a whole city budget, and that was very interesting. And then I went back and looked at Lincoln City, so I'm used to spreadsheets. Our company works in 3 states and has thousands of jobs, so you know that's pretty much what Sean's job seems to be. You know, partially, you know, but also it's a way to learn. You know, down in South County, you know, we're sort of separated from the county, and we really it gives me a chance to really get to know the county as a whole better because it's so linear and we're at the far end of it. And it also gets to teach me a little bit of history. And I know I went back and looked at 10 years ago budget, and a line item popped up about the Tillamook County Hospital that, you know, reminded me that was a county facility at one time. And still actually, apparently you still own the building, and there's a lease still 45, correct? So that kind of stuff is all very interesting to me. You know, I was one of the kids that had access to the encyclopedias and would just start flipping through the pages, you know. So anyway, that's why I, you know, mostly applied. It's mostly an educational thing for me, you know, to listen and learn. Because you look at these budgets and they're pretty much, they just, you know, they all sort of flow. You know, there's other than the 2 items that you mentioned last year, you know, the timber money, and of course, you know, making sure as an employer, you know, the employees are you know, so important as far as running this county. That's the big thing. And of course, with our water department, we're stuck with one key. Troy True, you know, he goes down. We have to bring in somebody from Salem or something. So, you know, those 2 items stuck out, Sean, in your report that I thought were very important. And always have been important to me. Because living wages as an employer are difficult. There's never enough money, is there? So
That's true.
that's why I'm here.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, you led with they talked me into this, and so so I'm totally curious now about who's the they.
Oh, you know, basically, I live on the crest, so you know we have we have numerous, you know, Roger Wickland up there, and where I get actually Kelly up there in Cloverdale, you know, who does my hair. She was the first one that said, hey, you know, I'd like to see you on this, you know, and because she seems to sort of be the mayor of Cloverdale, you know, and I really respect
There's
it.
like 4 mayors of Cloverdale.
Oh, there are, but she's such a hardworking person, you know, and you know, and so, you know, as Kelly probably pushed me more than anybody, you know, but, you know, like I said, I live on the crest. There's, you know, Guy Holsworth that, you know, just, you know, can't be in enough board meetings, can he, you know? And I just really appreciate people that, you know, spend all their life. I mean, that's what Guy does, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
And he's very, you know, he's a smart, good guy, and a great neighbor.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Well, yes. So we're just gonna go around the table and ask you a few questions.
Sure.
So I'm gonna turn it over to Commissioner Schmer.
Okay, perfect. So in our application, we asked about what sort of special skills you might bring to the committee, and I would love if you could answer that with a budget sort of a focus. Tell me a little bit about your budget and financial background.
You know, I've operated it's sort of a general contracting company, but I work for banks, I work for the generals, you know, GAS, you know, for the federal court system. And so, you know, in that operations, and in fact, as I've gone into retirement, I've been totally the bookkeeper for the operation, you know, I do the payroll, I do all the books, I do all the quarterlies. And I just train somebody to do that. So, you know, you're looking at US Bank, On Point, those are all big people, and I work with their, annually I work with their budgets on, for their building budgets, that they have to put together in the fall, and they have to submit those. So, and like I said, with the GIS, those projects run, probably about 16 months, so there's a lot of just ongoing. We rebuilt the courthouse down in Medford to Gus Solomon. I was asked to go to New Orleans, but I couldn't be gone that long to redo that courthouse. So I'm used to, sitting, those are, they start out, they're all budget meetings, before you start documentation. So, so I am sort of a jack of all trades, but, the bottom line was to operate a company for 30 years profitably, even through the recessions. So I've had up to 40 employees at times. And like I said, it's mostly corporate people and government people that I do that with. So that's pretty much it, it's sort of hands-on,
So you're creating the budgets, monitoring the budgets, that whole
And then doing the books,
Doing the books.
Basically doing the payroll, filing all the Washington sales tax, Idaho sales tax, all the government stuff. I've just turned over all the permitting. I just, got permits in Newport, one in Idaho, a couple in Washington, so I'm used to working with different government entities
Thank you.
on an ongoing basis.
Thank you.
So this is about a 4-day commitment during the year, and then an extra couple hours mid-year for a budget update, which I'm a quorum right now, so I don't have budget committee mid-year update scheduled yet. It's 3 days in April, two full days and 1/2 day, and then usually a half day in the first part of May. Is that
Correct. Yeah, I looked at last year's schedule, so, it's, obviously driving from Nestwin, it keeps us out of the summer traffic, So it's a little easier, April, May, we're still okay, as best we can be, So, I understand that there's a commitment, but, that's one of the reasons my wife let me do it is because it's 2 months and then it's done. It's not, like you guys have to. Go. Jeez. I cannot do your jobs. But I have started to listen to last year's audio, so I will get through that even before April.
Great.
So I'm fairly familiar with Nesco, and I live in Pacific City.
Right.
And I used to be on our water and sewer board way back when, and then it became a joint water and sanitary authority.
Correct.
And so, got a little bit of understanding what you're doing and all. The county budget, of course, is much larger. So could you tell us what you would know about financing or borrowing money or capital projects or, things that you wouldn't have, you only do occasionally, maybe even only every 30, 40, 50 years, something like that. How do you finance those, and what's been your background in borrowing money or otherwise getting money that's not in the current?
Well, of course, with our water bureau, we're in the process right now of all those grants to basically buy our watershed, So that's a kind of a multi-year project that, Troy works on. So there's all kinds of grant money that comes from different places, and that's where the education comes in, that I learn about these things, As a contractor, of course, I have to bank with all the clients, and so I have credit lines with all of them. I always have, and so I still have a commercial building in Portland that doesn't owe money, but at one time it did. So personally, I have financed things non-residential, and commercially, and I think that's the bigger part of it. I think as far as the capital thing, being a contractor, I understand the construction side and how that works. Is probably where I'm I advantage it. Obviously, with the banks, especially, we have to divide things into capital and expense, and so I understand the differences in those things. So. But no, I'm probably short on basically the nuts and bolts of bonding and things like that. But I'm aware of them and I read about them, and of course course, we get taxed on them, so we read on them.
Right, you understand how they work.
We read on them when they come up, and we approve those bonds, what is this bond and what is it for?
Good, thank you.
I appreciate that you have reviewed the message, the treasurer's budget message from last year, and you said you're starting to review the audio. I wonder if you've reviewed the budget itself.
Yes, I have. It's, 130 or 113 million or something like that. What, pardon me?
143
Or 143, but it was 143 last year?
with this fiscal year, yeah.
Pardon me?
This fiscal year is.
Yeah, this fiscal, but that was 113 last year, correct. And so, yeah, no, I have, like I said, I took 10 years worth and took snapshots so I could see, where it's going, and I think that's, obviously, in business, you're always looking at trends, because, we have pricing and we have to have consistent trends for contracts. And so that's what I see in your reports, is you're trying to see those bottom line trends and why are they changing, and 10 years is always, to me, a great snapshot, because a lot has happened in 10 years, And of course, right now, we're really, back to your message is that, the employment wages is so volatile the last 4 years. It's really difficult to know what's happening there, That's a tough one, so. Anyway, I don't think, did I get off track?
No, you didn't.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, that's a great jumping off point for my next question. If you've been reviewing our budget, you probably may have realized that over the last 3 years, we've lost money in our general fund.
Right.
And so we're in this challenging space of how do we make decisions related to our expenses going forward. What is your approach when you're in that sort of a tight and difficult situation? What's the approach to decision making that you like to take?
Like I said, this is where I'm not familiar with county operations. I look forward to the workshops and listening to, the different departments present their thing, because, we're back to, we want to preserve our employees in this county, that's sort of the basis of, for as people that live here, so, you're trying to protect that is, what I really see. And other than that, it's, it's tough, it's tough. So, you would hope that, obviously there's gonna have to be tough cuts, and they're gonna have to come outside of, the workforce that makes this county go. Because, as you know, in South County, we feel that there's not enough road work and there's not enough this and that, so that we don't want to decrease that. And for some reason, like with our police bond a couple of years ago, they don't want to, to pay for it. Unfortunately, thank goodness they pay for the school bonds, but, owning property in Portland, it's, it's the county runs on the shoestring, you know what I mean, down here,
Yeah.
There's just sort of a, I just sold my house in Portland, our work house. My wife worked at Providence for 41 years in the ER. And the expenses there are my commercial building there and here. It's just, it's not apples and oranges, So, so unfortunately I do support, it's hard because I know people down here they come here because it's affordable for them, but unfortunately I think that the county, everybody needs to pay more, to maintain our service, just to maintain our services.
Yeah, the inflation's been through the roof the last couple of years.
Oh, no, I tell you.
Thank you.
Let's see, what other questions are we asking?
Or haven't we gotten to yet?
Yeah.
Citizen perspective.
Can you, as a citizen coming in, can you see the broad picture and how it's going to apply? If you also look at the very, say, individual departments, can you bring, what sort of perspective can you bring for that, for the Sonoma County budget?
It's for me, being in business, it always starts at the bottom line. Like I said, I quote the bottom lines, and then I look at the bottom lines of each department, and I look at the there's departments that generate revenue. I look at those. those. And so I really start more with those bottom line figures and you know, with the revenue and expenditures like that. And so, you know, I did look at all the individual wages and things like that, but you know, that's to me, it's more of what the bottom line is than trying to, you know, to nickel and dime all the individual line items. You know, you've got a lot of line items, you know, your report's 344 pages, you know, I think it's, you know, very complete. It was very eye-opening to me to see, you know, you have the appendix that has all the wage ranges and things like that that are, you know, that show everybody where it's at. And so I don't nitpick the line items as much as I see the other line items for each individual department, you know, to sustain those departments. You know, we need to sustain the sheriff's department, the road department. That answer it?
So you've looked at the budget, and I appreciate that, not everyone does. It's not exactly, well, it is bedtime reading.
I have to read it early. I have to read it at 8 in the AM.
So let's say hypothetically, a department comes in and they're asking for, pick a number, $5 million.
Correct.
And it looks like there's only $4 million that could be allocated into their request. How do you go about prioritizing? And then the second half of that question, how do you how do you persuade your fellow board members and all of us who would be on the committee that your way of thinking and your priorities are better than someone else's? In other words, how do you sell what you're thinking, and how do you get there in the first place?
Well, hopefully with facts, and that's where your workshops are so important, that they come in, and if their budgets are that, you ask them, what do we lose? What do we lose by not having this $1 million? And so that becomes sort of a line item as you go through all of the different departments, and then it's a matter of all these departments, we're gonna lose this at the road department, this at the sheriff's department, whatever, what is the priority here? So I think that has to come from the departments. You know, they have to tell us, what is the priority and what is gonna be lost. So is that?
Well, I think so. So then, let's say that you agree with that, but others of us don't. How do you persuade us? In other words, you cannot have gone through life without disagreeing, professionally with others. How do you persuade them to your point of view?
Well, hopefully just with the facts that this department said that we're gonna lose this if we're not funded. We're gonna lose this, so it's a matter of the facts, and does the rest of the members want to lose whatever's gonna be lost in that, and that's about it. Hopefully, you basically distill it down so that it's really clear on each department, what's important and what can be lost, so it's not, bound up, it's just a line item, so we're gonna lose this, within a couple of sentences. So it's trying to just really distill it down where it's very clear, do you want to lose this?
Thank you.
I think one of the most important things about the citizen members of the budget committee is that you represent the community in a way that we don't exactly, because we represent the function of the county, but the citizen members represent the community. So I'm wondering if you've thought about that and how you would approach being the community representative on the budget committee.
I would let people know that I'm on it, basically, Neskowin is a small community like Pacific City, and we're all interconnected, So it's pretty easy through the CPAP and the Community Association and those type of organizations to basically to reach out to all those. I mean, they're all my neighbors. We're so condensed down there, and to make sure that they know. And once again, Kelly's waiting up in Cloverdale to hear that, that she can input to me up in Cloverdale. Over in Pacific City, we have some friends, but that's, not so much. Terra Del Mar we have. I'm trying to think of our CERT leader up there, Dave. We're building another shed with Dave, so I see him all the time. And I know that, you know, he needs funding, and of course, Terra Del Mar is very small, as Isabel will tell you. So, that's about it. It's, just because I've been down there for 30 years, so, making sure, like I said, you know, before the workshops even start, that I sort of gather as much information as I can. People down there do have a tendency to be very opinionated and speak their mind, so that's great, you know. You know, and
No,
at
no
times,
recommend.
you know, the short-term rental thing, of course, you know, that created terrible, you know, friendships were broken up, but it's starting to recover, thank goodness, you know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Didn't your sewer district had a few lawsuits going as well?
You know, thank God I'm out of it. I'm up on the crest, so you know, yeah, there's all kinds of issues with the sewer, you know, and I'm glad that we're not unified, you know. Yeah, you're right. That's a difficult organization over there, and they continue to have problems. I'll tell you. You know, it's not resolving itself. You know, Troy told us they're trying to push to incorporate all of us and get us all tight and all the way north to the Gila Shores and all, to try to help save the situation. But it's you know, the fathers back in what 90 or in the 80s basically, you know, tried to restrict development by keeping that sewer system to a minimum. You know, and of course, you know, they continue to pay for that today.
So Paul, we're kind of getting toward the end of our time. Do you have questions you'd like to ask us?
No, I have a few that basically for Sean, as I read those sheets, sometimes it's, you know, I see there's some things, but, you know, I'll just at another time, you know, I don't really have that, and I didn't want to use that here, so. A few things for Sean, but they're, you know, they can all wait, I've got plenty to use before that.
Yeah, you can reach out to my office anytime.
Okay. Good. So like I said, sometimes I can't see how they
Sometimes it's hard to tell how they tie together.
How they
Sean
balance.
and her team know.
Oh, yeah, oh, I'm sure. And,
I've spent a
you know,
lot of time.
and most importantly is it's not like it was, that's one of the things that looking back, it's always been done that way, so it's not like it was done differently last year. It's, you know, you basically inherited it, didn't you?
And Sean's very accessible to the committee members, and she's also accessible to citizens. You know, when people reach out to the treasurer's office, Sean's great about talking to people about the budget.
We're a small office, but yeah, everything flows into our office, so we see pretty much everything and can answer any questions unless I have to send them to our county council.
Good. No, I've had really good feelings up, you know, with the clerk's office. I used to always get in those back rooms and go through, you know, all those plot things and the thing, and you know, they were so good, and we actually, my wife and I got our marriage license here, and you know, getting on the election, you know, being elected, it's just really been smoothless. I've always really enjoyed the relationship with the clerk's office up there. So,
That's good
you
to
know,
hear.
what happened to Tassie?
She retired.
She retired, yeah, very sad, yeah. Yeah, boy, she was an institution, wasn't she?
Really?
33
Really?
years. 33 years with the county.
Yeah, as
Young
long as
woman.
I've been here, yeah, no.
Yeah, young woman, so she can
She's
have a
still around
whole
town.
other life.
Well, that's okay, it was just that she ran such a great, tight organization, you know.
Have you met Christy Diggs yet?
No, I.
Oh, you'll like her.
Okay,
She's
good.
been here like 12 years, I
She
guess.
was-
so
Well,
she's-
she was under Tassie
Yeah,
technically.
the
and so,
deputy clerk.
Yeah.
Well, if you were paying attention, you'll remember Clackamas County had some difficulties with their clerk over there. And so we've been just crystal clear and clean and
Been very
Good.
nice, yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, that's a service that I have used, you know, for, like I said, getting married on the fourth thing.
Nice.
Excellent.
Well, it was a pleasure to meet you, and thank you
Great.
very much for being interested.
Right, no, thank you for having me in and giving me an opportunity. Like I said, to me, it's education, you know, I just love to learn more about this stuff. And to meet, if I have the ability to meet these department heads and workshop and things like that, you know, I know they come down there, but I feel isolated down in South County.
Yeah, you bet.
So.
And so have you and your wife moved here now full-time as retirees?
Yeah, I've always been here, and I just commuted back. I had a house in Portland, but I've had this, I bought the first house in the late 80s, and then I bought this one in 96 is when I bought it. And she retired in 2018, and she just never goes to Portland. She's been down here. But it's always been my residence, and, all these years I've, even sometimes when I get pressed to travel or whatever, I've had to somehow get back down even for a night and just fetch home and then rush back to
Very
Spokane,
Very good.
But you're right, I don't have a Portland house anymore, so no, we don't.
You said you're up by Guy Siebert?
Yeah, we're on the crest.
I know where he lives.
Yeah.
He's a good guy, and you got a good friend there.
Oh, Guy's a great guy. Yeah, we ride together to the meetings. I can see him out of my house. So.
Yeah, and Donna's.
Yeah, Donna's daughter worked with my wife at St. Vincent's.
Oh,
So
very
you know
good.
how it just keeps
Yeah.
it just keeps colliding. Yeah. So no, it's I live in like one of the original houses. It was the Cloverdale doctor's house that he built in 1948. But once again, one of his sons was my dad's dentist in Portland.
Small.
You just
The
can't.
6 degrees of separation don't exist
No,
when you got
no.
areas like this. It's about 2 degrees of separation. It doesn't take long.
But it's a wonderful old ranch house, and we love it. It's like
Yeah.
3 acres down into the wetlands.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
That's how we have that strong relationship with Fish and Wildlife,
Yeah.
with Harry.
Thank you.
Great, well, thank you. I hope to see you again.
You too. Pleasure to meet you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay, thank you.
Surprised I haven't seen you, because I've been around here 30-some years too.
What's that?
I've been in Civic City a little over 30 years.
Well,
And I think you look so familiar, I'm sure we've crossed paths.
but the relationship with Nesco and Pacific City, remember at one time we even looked at joining and incorporating, remember?
Oh, I
And that
remember
lasted
that well.
about a day. But we always talk about how it's always cloudy up in Pacific City.
That is true.
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
He's right, and when we decide to take a walk, Patty and I, sometimes we go down to Nesco and walk around.
Oh, yeah.
The weather is
Weather's better.
noticeably better, wind-wise, and there's such an array of really neat homes. Every house is just totally different.
Sure.
So you can, if you like looking at houses, Nesco's a wonderful community.
Yeah, it does have some cool looking houses.
Yeah,
That is true.
we do have an issue or two, and like I said, with sanitary sewer, they've been fighting. It's turned into an annuity for lawyers.
That's the truth. Come in. Hi.
Oh,
Hi, Michael.
hi.
Oh,
Yes.
see you again.
Good to see you again.
I'm Sean Leonard.
Michael Weisenflug.
Hi, Michael, good to see you again.
You?
Hi.
Good to see you.
You too. Thanks for coming. How's your drive?
It was okay.
Good.
Better than I guess the last couple of days.
Yes.
Although Rockaway Beach is some kind of a banana belt because we didn't get any ice whatsoever.
Wow,
Yeah.
you were lucky.
I mean, it was cold, but no ice at all.
Oh, yeah. That's extraordinary.
Well, it was that east wind and you guys had that nice big
I
sort of
guess.
bluff behind you.
Well, it's a mixed
Protects
bag there
that.
because like when it's sunny north and south of us, we're socked in.
That
so,
is true.
You know.
You
Anyway.
win some, you lose some.
Yeah, I'm glad you're able to see him today because they originally couldn't because I had a doctor's appointment, but they closed their office because Portland's
Oh,
having
just-
their
yes,
issues, so.
They are, they're not done with it
Yeah.
yet. Yeah.
Well, welcome. Thank you for applying to the Budget Committee, and thanks for coming in to meet with us today. We're grateful for your time. And I'm sorry your doctor's appointment got postponed, but we're glad to meet with you today.
Good.
So we're just gonna go around the table, and Aaron and I and Doug had the opportunity to interview you just recently for another committee, so I feel like I don't want it to be redundant. But why don't you tell us Specifically, why the budget committee?
Well, my background is in accounting, and I've had prior experience on budget committees. And for the college, which is also a municipality, I've had helped prepare the budget there at certain times. So I have a lot of background in that area. And I'm semi-retired as of June of 21. So I had some extra time, so I figured one of the ways I wanted to give back to the community is do some volunteer work, and this is right up my alley, so that's basically the main reason. And as I said on my application, I'm already on the budget committee at the City of Rockaway.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do feel like we just had this conversation, so as I look through our questions, I'm thinking, okay, which ones of these have we not necessarily asked?
But she didn't hear it.
I just feel-
And also, this is a public meeting and we have folks online listening.
Okay.
Okay, so you kind of touched on this a little bit, but maybe you can go just a little bit deeper on special skills that you have that relate to budget and finance. Just a little more information, a little deeper.
Well, I actually have taught municipal accounting, so I understand municipal accounting and how it's different and how it's similar to regular financial accounting, and there are differences with the funds and so on. So, I've had background with that, and just having basically my entire career in accounting, I understand accounting and budgeting in particular. So, I just think I have the knowledge and skills in that area.
And did you serve on the county budget committee previously?
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't read, it was, you were on the budget committee forever, right?
About 20 years, I
It
think.
must have been like right before Doug got
Uh-huh.
on. It's when Gina,
But
Oh, Gina.
Gina Furman Nickel, now is her name, she
Right.
appointed me along with Sue Cameron. That's
so I must have been
quite-
right after that, because Sue Cameron and Gina were both county commissioners at the time I was
Well,
on.
you were on before me, because I don't remember that we were on together.
I don't think we were. I think you must have come on right after. I
Yes, and that was, seems like it was about a week ago, but it was,
Here it is 20 years.
my goodness.
And Jerry Dove was the other commissioner
Okay.
at the time.
Yes.
Thank you,
Yeah.
yeah.
As a community representative, how can you see the big picture but also see individual departments and how that's going to apply to their individual budgets and the amount of funds that are available for those?
Yeah, I like to approach it from, I don't have an agenda, coming into it. And I like to say I'm sort of Switzerland, that, everybody, I think everybody has a need and everybody has wants, and you have to look at everything sort of together. Unfortunately, as you guys, I'm sure, have run into in the past, the needs sometimes outweigh the availability. So somewhere along the line, something has to give somewhere, but I'm not a fan of like just going after low hanging fruit. I like to look at everything, and I think, coming into it, I believe everybody has an equal shot, and you want to hear everyone's needs and wants and what their theories are and why they need it, and then go at it from that. So I guess that's just I want to hear everyone's opinion and go from there.
So I'll give you a hypothetical, but it's really not hypothetical at all, it's probably pretty true.
Okay.
So you're sitting in this room and there's a hearing and one of the department heads presents a budget that requires $5 million to do whatever, pick a number. And Sean says, well, we can only allocate $4 million, we're $1 million short. So how do you prioritize what this individual has asked for? And then if there's some disagreement, second part of the question, how do you persuade your colleagues and commissioners that your thinking is better than theirs?
Good question. Well, I guess I'd approach the first part of it from asking that department what their priorities are. I mean, presumably, you've got sort of a staggered must-have, would be nice to have, it'd be great if I could have kind of approach. And sort of help, because it's not my department, I'm an outsider, I don't know what's important to them. I would feel like it'd be important for me to hear what they thought was the most important thing, and go down from there. As far as convincing other people, I don't know. I guess it depends on how strongly people feel about it. I hope that, in the budget process, at least the ones I've been associated with, generally speaking, it may take some discussion, but you come to some kind of a consensus. And with all negotiations, not everybody's going to be happy. In fact, some of the best negotiations are nobody's happy, but you get there one way or the other. So I'm not going to be the kind of guy that's going to stand firm on something. If others have a stronger opinion and I'm in the minority, I'll voice my opinion, and if it comes to I'm the minority, then I'm the minority, and you have to go from there. But I will stand strongly, or say strongly if I have an opinion on something.
Okay, fair enough.
Something that I think is very important about the Citizen Budget Committee is that you represent the community in a way that we don't. We do, of course, in our work, but we're internal in the process. And so I think the Citizen Budget members are essential to bring us balance and to bring the community voice into the process. So I'm wondering if you've thought about that, about how you represent the community in this committee.
I have, and as I say, I'm currently on the Budget Committee in Rockaway, and even before that, in other budgets. I think it almost kind of goes both ways. I mean, sometimes I'll talk to community members, and they have a preconceived notion on how budgeting is, or how the county or the city or whoever it is doing something, which may not be 100% accurate. So I think sometimes it kind of goes both ways. The public committee member can actually help talk to other community members to say, I know this is what you're hearing on the street or whatever, but that may not actually be the true case. On the other hand, it is good because, you guys as commissioners, you hear things from the public all the time. I think it's different when public members are talking to public members. It's a different dynamic. And so I think that a public member of the Budget Committee can bring that voice of what they're hearing in the community into the commissioners that you guys may not even know is out there. And I think that's especially important because sometimes, I go to the city council meetings in Rockaway, there's a lot of times voices there that are very vocal, but sometimes they're the vocal minority, and there's a lot of people that don't speak up that are still out there and that need representation, and that those voices need to be heard as well.
Thank you.
I feel like we've gone through all of the questions that we had with everyone else, so I'm gonna pull back to one of Doug's, actually. I don't know, probably might have to have you clarify your question, but it was a good one. So, as we are going forward, there are often financing things that we need to work on that are outside of just what revenue comes in from our taxes. What's your experience and knowledge in some of those financing tools that are available to government that we might use for a building or a major capital project? What do you know?
Like bonds and
Yeah,
stuff?
things like that.
Yeah.
What do you know?
Well, I mean, as you know, the college has recently gone through, at my time at the college, we've gone through 2 bond issues. One to build the original college that we're at now, and then the one that just was passed recently that's going to build a new healthcare education building. So I can't say that I have a lot of experience in the bonding process itself, but I am aware of the needs and the requirements, and I'm on for the college, I'm on the bond oversight committee there to make sure that money is being spent appropriately according to what what the bond requirements are. So I do have experience with that. I don't know what other financing things you're talking about. Grants, I mean, we do a lot of grants at college, and I've had a lot of experience working with grants. We had some big grants there, Title III grants from the Department of Education that I worked on, and then other smaller grants as well.
Thank you.
So you had said you had some extra time. Our budget committee meets 2.5 days in April, a half day in May, and then usually a mid-year budget update for an hour or two. I'm gonna cough, sorry. Is that commitment work for you?
It does, we're going to, one of my questions actually is gonna be, I don't know if you've got those things set up yet, the times, because there is some overlap with the budget, because that's about the same time as City of Rockland does their budget, so I hope that works out. But other than that, yes.
Okay.
Sean could probably tell you right now.
I think she's pulling up the dates.
April 9th and 11th are full days, and April 10th is a half day in the afternoon.
The 10th is half day.
That's in April, and then May 8th is, depending on how April goes, is from like 1 to 5 or 1 to 4 when we get done. And then the mid-year one is usually in December or January for an hour or two, and I do offer virtual options on all those.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And I can work with that, I think. I just, I'm out of town sometimes, but as far as I know, I'm gonna be around those times.
So I'll ask you a question as an educator, and let's say a student asked you a question, or you asked the student maybe to explain the difference between fund accounting and enterprise accounting. Go ahead.
Okay. I wouldn't ask, I don't know if I'd ask the student that directly, but basically, there's similarities and there's differences. One of the main differences is there's, in enterprise accounting or financial accounting, you have retained earnings, and in fund accounting, you have fund balance, which is more or less the equivalent. And one of the biggest differences between generalized accounting, general financial accounting, and municipal accounting or fund accounting is that things have to be accounted for separately in special revenue funds and general fund, and then within those funds there's also enterprise funds, which are treated like financial accounting funds. So there's all kinds of differences and similarities, and one of the big things knowing is that especially like with special revenue funds, those funds have to be kept separate in there, whereas in generalized accounting, you can sort of just shift things left and right without any real issue. There's more restrictions on fund accounting. So that's, in general, I can go on for days on that, I suppose.
I don't have any more questions for you. Do you have questions for us?
I do, and you alluded to the 2.5 day deal. So I assume that that's where the individual departments come in. Now, that's all before the budget's actually prepared?
So in the first part of February, I send last year's budget out to the departments. They fill in their requests and send them back to me in the first part of March, and then as soon as I can get them back from all the departments, I put them together and send them out to the requested budget out to the budget committee members for their review before the workshops.
Okay, so nothing's been finalized or anything at that point, so it's potentially in the red at that point.
Usually, yes.
More or less always.
More or less, yes.
Everybody's
So
dreams.
Try to give the budget committee as much time to review budgets, so if they have questions when we come into the workshops, they can ask the departments.
So back up if you didn't say, or maybe I missed it, how much time do we have between the time it's done and before the meetings usually?
It depends on, I have a few stragglers that generally miss a deadline by a week or so. I try and get it at least 2 weeks, if
Okay.
not more,
Right.
out to the budget committee members and available online for the public.
Okay. Okay, and we talked about the dates already, number of meetings. So I do have one sort of broad question, and I don't know how much of the funding you get is from timber, but I know that's an issue. What kind of information will be available to determine the basis for any kind of idea of what the timber funding will be for the budget?
So last year we looked at a 10-year trend and we kind of stuck on 4.5, 4.4 is what we're using going forward. The projections that I received out of Salem can be so off the wall, it's not even funny.
Do they tend to stick to the projections pretty closely, or?
No.
No.
So the one we received in April of this year was to receive more than $8 million in
Yes.
timber revenue. And then they sent us an updated one as of January, covering the same period, which now is half,
Yeah, we've got 2
half
quarters.
actual and half projected, and they dropped it to $6 million.
So if we'd have budgeted that 8 million that they projected, we'd already be $2 million short.
Right.
So it's challenging. We have been working with local district forester to try to find if there is a way to zoom in on that and tighten that up a little bit to better understand. But it's an interesting process between local and Salem.
And how much was actually received in this current year?
Current year, well, we're on a fiscal year, so we've only gotten half the year. Last year, I think we were over by about 400,000. So it was good.
Last year we hit 4.5, which was our budget at 4.5. So the 2023,
You budgeted 4.5.
we budgeted 4.5 for 2023's annual report that just came out, and we got 4.44.
Yeah.
So we were pretty much right on track last
I mean,
year.
8 million would be sweet.
So 8 million would be sweet. We have in other years received 8 million.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting, challenging process. What we are hearing is that we will expect that in Tillamook County, according to the district forester, a fairly flat harvest amount of 47 million board feet. The question is, what's the stumpage rate, and therefore what's the revenue? We also get a certain amount of our timber comes out of the Forest Grove district, and I had a conversation with Forest Grove district forester just this week, or last week, sorry, and he's expecting about a 10 million board foot drop out of Forest Grove, just based on what was available to be cut that was what I would call ripe, that the timber were for that.
Rotation.
I know, that's how you know I'm not a total solid timber, but something ready to be cut, so we're looking at something less coming out of that district.
I'm just interested to know kind of where you guys are gonna come down on that, because I tend to be more conservative for those kind of things, but, and that, of course, colors everything else related to that, but, you know, it doesn't do any good to budget 8 million if you're not gonna get it.
No, and that's why Sean in her office said, let's look at a 10-year average.
Okay.
With a 10-year average, looking at it, there was a year in that 10-year when we got 2.5 million.
Wow.
And there was a year in that 10-year where we got 8 million,
Yeah.
right? And so when you balance that all the way across, 4.5 was the average. We also have put a certain amount into revenue stabilization fund, recognizing that if we have another $2.5 million year,
Right.
we don't want to be cutting in that year. We want to have revenue that we can transfer that says we can get ourselves through that year and then look more in a more reasonable timeline and a less pressured way as to how to make county adjustments. So we're trying to figure out how to work within that.
Right. So, you know, with budgeting, you've got revenue and expenses, and other than timber, I mean, your property taxes, I assume, are pretty easy to figure out. Property tax, or timber taxes, not so much. Transit taxes, you can probably figure that out fairly closely, I'm guessing.
It's an interesting world. The last report we got from Nan showed that in the third quarter of the year, we were down on transient lodging tax from the prior 2 years, I think. So we kind of had a peak, and it's kind of, I think, right-sizing itself, but the first 2 quarters were up. So it's kind of this wait-and-see game.
Yeah.
So I don't think we know exactly. That, of course, is, at this point, roads money
Right.
specifically.
Right.
And I attended the Tillamook Coast Visitors Association board meeting at noon today, and Nan reported that the, yeah, it is yours.
It's so much, I'm not sure somebody else.
That's yours.
We report it for you.
And that the short-term rental operators have reported that their October was the highest ever. So, that things are trending back up.
Yeah, so hopefully that fourth quarter will trend back up. 'Cause
Yeah,
that's what we're waiting.
I know we're a little different in Rockaway because we're actually on the beach, but it's just been going up and up and up
Yeah.
over there, so.
Yeah.
And so other than that, there's not much in the way of revenue you can do anything with.
We're looking for ways to generate revenue. And one of the things we're talking about is the possibility of raising the TLC tax.
Have you thought about recycling bottles and stuff?
Brownie sales, go right there.
Clipping coupons, bake sales?
Bake sales, yeah.
We did ask departments to look at their fees if they hadn't adjusted those in
Right.
multiple years, and several did that. Hopefully they'll do that again. Yeah, grants, anything they can look for.
Yeah, grants would be nice too.
Part of the problem with timber is once a contract is let, they have 3 years to harvest. I think that's still the case, isn't it? So, you can say, okay, well, this company came in and bought a whole bunch of timber.
There's no guarantee they're gonna do anything.
No, they're gonna watch the market, and they're gonna, they'll go into the futures market, and then they'll do what they need to do to go to their bottom line. So, I mean, these people are not at all stupid.
Right.
They really act quite smart, and we're sort of at their mercy within that time frame. So even though, things really look positive, doesn't mean the check shows up.
Right.
And they've had the same issues in most other places of finding the workers, the equipment.
Mhm.
Building the roads to some of these places can be near impossible.
Well, then, yeah, because I was reading the article in the Headlight Herald last week, or was it last week? That seemed pretty grim, with the needle damage and the steep slopes, and it just made me sad.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. It's interesting sitting with Kate, and she was talking about, we'll harvest the same 47 million board feet, but it will be more alder, it will be more Swiss navel cast, and it will be in places that are harder to get to. But in a way, our timber industry, from the state perspective, has been harvesting some of the best and easiest to reach timber over this last probably 10, 15 years. We've had a really good run at it, and now it's just gonna get harder, which just means the cost point is more difficult.
Right.
The good news is that as you harvest the alder that is, snapped off the top in the Swiss needle cast, you actually put in trees that will be better in the long term for our forests. So if you can wait 70 years, we're gonna have some really good trees that are, that grow. I know it seems
Doesn't really help us
crazy.
next year, but.
No, but from the health of the forest long-term for Tillamook County, it's a positive thing when we harvest those lower value woods and replace them with what will in the future be higher value wood. But it puts us in a difficult pinch in the middle because they just don't sell for as much.
Right.
And while it's true that some of that will be more expensive to harvest, especially the super steep slope stuff, it's also true that those lesser desirable products stabilize our market, because other counties don't have the Swiss needle cast that we can continue to harvest, and they don't have the alder that we have market for. So it helps us, and it's more expensive to harvest.
It's really complicated. That's what I would
Yeah.
say, Michael, is that
Right.
having taken on this since Commissioner Yamamoto left, what I'm learning more than anything is it's exceptionally complicated, because then stumpage comes in. What are people willing to pay for it? We could cut half as much, but we could make double the revenue.
Right, and I know that, if you ask anybody on any given day, you'll get a different,
Yeah.
number, but, at the college, we get timber tax
Yeah.
there, but it's not as important to the college as it is to you guys, and so we just sort of like, whatever it is,
Pick a number.
It's gonna be whatever it is. But I'd ask that question, I'd love to get some clarity, but handy clarity about that, so.
Boy, we all would.
There is none.
Clear, yeah.
Clear as mud.
The
That's-
problem is that we are dependent on it, unlike the college.
Right.
The college can put it in savings or, but we're budgeting with it, and there's
A quarter of our general fund budget is based on the timber
The
dollars.
quarter.
A quarter.
there's a lot of
Plus, you have the
crystal ball
special districts that, many of them
Mhm.
look to that as a source of funding
Right.
as well. And so, if it goes like this, then they have a problem. And so some of them don't have the luxury that the county does. We have some other revenue,
They don't.
and they don't in some cases, or they don't have as much, they have fewer options.
Yeah, it's definitely probably our biggest financial challenge. It's just that we are dependent upon, to Commissioner Bell's point, we budget for it in our budget every year. some counties that receive it because they don't get as much of it, because they have had such huge fluctuations, don't have it in their budget.
Yeah.
But we have always had it in our budget. It's always been a significant portion. So it's not something that you can wean yourself off of the way that people talk about in the community. They say, well, just, replace it. Okay. And or don't use it. Well, that's, don't put it into your general fund. Well, that would be a huge, huge reduction in services that nobody wants to see.
Right. Okay, well, I think that's really all the questions I have.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're grateful for your willingness and for your time today, and we'll be in touch soon.
Okay.
Yeah, you bet. Take your water. Drink your water.
I'll take it.
You can take it with you. We gave you a travel cup.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks
Okay.
again, Michael.
Hi.
See you later.
See ya.
See, we have people online here.
Wow. That was great. Okay, so to begin deliberating, I would like to propose, I'm curious to know if we all agree, or how many of us agree, that our top three choices are Michael, Ken, and Paul.
So the one that would be number 4 would be the lady. And the answer for me is yes, for several reasons, not the least of which was she's been here less time and would have fewer connections maybe. She's an impressive lady, certainly could do some other things around here. So to answer your question for my part, yes.
I'm not the one that has to know that.
We totally want to know, we totally want to know what you think.
You're gonna spend more time probably than some of us.
Yeah, I think it's a toss-up. Really, I mean, I thought MJ did great. She's very analytical, big picture,
Yeah.
small picture. Did a little bit of research. Taking some time to look at the ORS statutes. Nobody reads those things. I mean, I do, but who else wants to read those things? So yeah, I mean, I'm either way. I'm good. I like the Paul did some history, looking back at past budgets to see what was going on.
You feel good about?
Either way. I mean, I like Michael and Ken. Ken, he's on the solid waste budget committee already. That's kind of a great.
Good known
to see.
quantity.
And he knows some of the terminology and whatnot. Michael definitely has obviously had some experience even on the Tillamook County budget, which is good. I think I'll reach out to Karen if she was but yeah, to me, it's a toss-up between the other one because I like like you said, the analytical. It's also somebody coming from outside who's just now getting involved in the community and getting them more involved in the community. And so you have a fresh set of eyes that hasn't looked at, 10 years of history at the county's budget. So.
True.
Yeah, I think I sit kind of where Sean does. I definitely agree that Michael and Ken are, very clearly qualified, well-committed folks that we do know something about and that have some excellent background. And I'm also kind of split on Paul and MJ. I was excited to hear from both of them, and I was actually really excited, as to Sean's point too, the research that both of them had done.
Mm-hmm.
So you're just thinking, these are people that they spent some time and really some energy to kind of look at what they were getting into, which I really appreciate. I think sometimes people can be interested and not necessarily dig into either the statutes or, to Paul's point, 10 years worth of our budget documents to look for trends. So I thought that was pretty impressive on his part as well. So I think I know that we try to look at, do we have north, south, central? We try to list some of balance, right? So right now we're very fortunate. We have Doug that is south. Paul would also be south, you're north, central, you're central, right?
I'm like the northern, southern, really cut off and no longer a south ender.
Well, depending on how this goes, you could have three from the south. You'd have Nesco and Ken and me.
Oh, that's right, it's 10 south, that's right.
So half the budget, well, but you could also say that's the unincorporated area too. I mean, you can.
Right.
Right.
For my part, like I said, I would agree with Commissioner Bell to start with, but I also, there's some value with the lady and an outside perspective that doesn't have the history. Sometimes a totally fresh set of eyes comes in and says, geez, you know, you guys, the rest of the world does it this way. What's the matter with you people?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, MJ was totally impressive, and I don't mean to imply that she wasn't. And if we didn't invite her to be on the budget committee, I would actively recruit her for something else, because I
Yes.
thought she had a lot to offer. I did think that she had considerably less experience with a budget of this size, and also less experience with the community itself. So, you know, I think if we chose her, she would step up and learn quickly and do a great job. But I was very much impressed with Paul's research, with the experience that he brought to it, and also with the research that he did. You know, to have familiarized himself with your budget message and 10 years of the budget and looking for trends, and it just seems like he's somebody who could hit the ground running, whereas there would be a bigger learning curve for MJ. That's what I thought.
I agree on that one, that there could be, yeah.
He also has maybe more of a private sector background. Of course, Ken does too, but, you know, sometimes that's helpful. On the other hand, there's a steeper learning curve, but he did his homework. So, I mean, I think you've got 4 people here who, we need to find a place for all 4 of them, as you just said.
Yeah.
So does anybody have a quarter? Who are you more comfortable with?
I was more comfortable with MJ, but that's me. I'm only one of 3, and you guys are the ones that actually have to adopt the board rules.
You're the one who has to do all the work.
That's what I'm here for. So, I mean, if there's questions to be answered, I just need a phone call or an email, and I generally get right back to them. I'll send forward something to Joel, because I don't know if it's a records request.
Well, I invited Joel to be on the interview committee, and then I didn't ask him to ask any questions while we were actually interviewing. So thank you for being with us, Joel, as a silent partner. So I wonder if you'd like to give us your perspective now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I would really just be repeating what's already been said. I mean, I think you have, you know, all candidates have strong abilities, and, you know, they're all going to bring something unique but beneficial to the table. Nobody said anything that, you know, was any red flags for me, for, you know, from a legal perspective. So no concerns there, you know. So I don't really have anything to add. I think they're all qualified, and I think they'd all step up and do a good job. So I'm sorry that's not more helpful.
That is helpful. You are affirming what our impressions also.
I thought it was also interesting that MJ had taught consensus and was big on process and decision makings by group. I realize that it's, not like we have time probably in our committees to get into a full consensus process, but I just thought it was an interesting background in decision making that might be helpful in a budget committee to have someone that brings that piece as well. Again, I'm not hooked on either one. The more I read my notes, the more I find good things about both. Not
Right,
that that's
for
helpful
sure.
either.
Yeah, it's true though. It's true that we were blessed with 4 excellent candidates. several times MJ said, at least 3 times, maybe 4, that she's looking for adult conversation. And I thought, this would be stimulating, because obviously she has the kind of mind to dig into it and learn about it. But it's stimulating in a very limited way, like, 4 days a year. And,
I think that's your work to do before the workshops, once you get invited.
true.
Like 2-3 weeks in there.
Well, there's tons of work to do by yourself, but I meant that, like, working with other people. And so it did occur to me, like, there might be all kinds of opportunities where she would have a chance to work with other people on a more regular basis. In the same way that we just recently interviewed Michael for the Tourism Advisory Committee and thought he's awesome, but we'd rather have him on the budget committee. So I'm just thinking about people's, like, I don't know what other committee we would invite Paul to be on, but I can think of other committees we would invite Angie to be on.
That's what I was thinking, there must be something in the health department, that advisory groups over there that, with her background as a nurse, and then her analytical side, she could step in and do some good. Or
I'm not sure
maybe,
if they have openings on the health council or not. We haven't talked about any openings, so at least maybe I think that they don't currently, but I don't know that for sure. It's not been part of our conversation at health council.
I suppose we could invite either of them to be on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee.
Or budget committee, because the solid waste budget committee also needs people.
Right? I think that their budget committee is generally made up of members of the advisory committee, isn't it? Not always? Okay. Oh, that's right, because of their Kevin. That's
Yeah,
right.
Kevin's on there, Leanne.
And wasn't there a construction, there was a timber,
Mhm. I thought
was
it
there
a community.
construction?
Construction and at large.
And at large.
So either of them
Yeah,
could be
so,
invited for that.
yeah, so Paul, I know Paul's, sounds like he's retiring out of that business, but coming from a background of the construction industry, that might be helpful. And that wouldn't necessarily have to be mutually exclusive. Ken serves on both.
True. Yeah.
As long as all 3 of them are there, then there's no.
Oh, right, we just gotta watch out for a quorum, thank you.
Well,
So we don't have
do
another.
we have, no, we don't
No,
have additional.
this was our last.
So we have consensus on 2.
Yes.
So that's terrific, we can move forward with those 2. So with the 3rd position,
Mhm.
would you like to interview them both again? Would you like to vote? Would you like to think about it? We don't actually have to decide today.
If we don't have to decide today, I think I'd like to think about it.
Okay.
Maybe we could talk in the briefing next week, if there's one. Or if, just because that's the next meeting other than the
Right.
Wednesday meeting.
How soon do we need to appoint?
February.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yes, we can talk
I
in
mean,
briefing.
I'm gonna have something for the leadership team meeting as far as mid-year budget. More of where we're at, more just the, hopefully more able to, not just the graph.
Yeah.
Just going like this.
Yeah.
So I mean, if that's something that they wanna sit in and listen to, might be good. If we come to consensus before then, but I don't need to call a mid-year budget meeting, we were only doing that when we started doing it.
Okay. So we can move forward with 2 and think about the 3rd and revisit next week. Okay.
Doug, you okay?
I guess so, I could rank them now, and but it's almost a 49-51, pretty darn close, because they each have qualities, and like she said, Commissioner Bell, is we've got a pretty good group, 4 that could step right in.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I also think, NJ, the lady, her services would be very helpful.
Sorry.
elsewhere.
No, you're fine, we're just still finishing up our conversation, go ahead.
So I think it would be incumbent upon, as you said, Commissioner, to recruit her, go after her and say, look, we didn't, we found somebody roughly equal that we want to put here, but we want you someone else because you showed us something that would benefit us all. benefit the organization, but that's where I would go right today. Now, if you wanna take a week and think about it, I'll probably tell you the same thing in a week.
Okay.
I don't know what would change, you know, we're certain, unless we interviewed him again, and I don't see that as the best way forward necessarily, but we could.
Yeah, if, you know, this time next week, we're still 2-2, we could rank their applications. Okay, all right. So we've chosen by consensus.
Did find this morning.
We have consensus on 2 budget committee members, Ken Henson and Michael Weisenflu, and we are evenly split on the other 2 because they were both great.
Oh, good,
Yeah. So we're gonna take a week to think about it.
Okay. great.
All right. So then, we will move into the board briefing topic. I think we only have one, and Rachel's gonna lead us.
Yeah, just that, and then we'll do the executive session, and time check. We just sent the 4 o'clock for executive session, but that's, I didn't really.
I have a 4:30 hard stop.
We can
Okay.
do it we can start it as soon as we're done with our topic.
Correct, I didn't know when we needed to be done.
Gotcha,
So,
sorry.
we have till 4:30.
I have a 4:30
Okay.
hard stop, yeah.
So I sent the email from Gustavo Guerrera, who is Senator Merkley's new rep, around, he's gonna be here on the 24th.
He's the Betsy.
Yes.
Okay.
So he listed some times in the email, it's around our meetings. I just didn't know what to do with this. And he said he also reached out to you.
He did, but I saw you were
Yeah.
gonna talk about it.
So-
Well, shall we invite him to either meeting, invite him to the board meeting or the board briefing?
Yeah, that might be easiest.
We'll all be here.
I don't think we have any, well, that's easy. Because
Yeah.
I don't really think we're in a position to do a tour, is what he was showing, but that would be the easiest.
Yeah,
So,
sure.
And we'll just put him on it to
And
just.
he's essentially brand new, the one that was representing them, and I can't recall his name, I think I have his card, but he was, I remember, he was a graduate of Reed. That's his predecessor, that individual, he's moved on, or do we, am I thinking of someone
That
else?
was Armitage.
He's from Wyden's office. So
Oh,
Lee
that was-
Armitage is Wyden's office, and then Espen, I don't know his last name, I'm sorry, is
Swanson.
Swanson, thank you, is Bonamici's office. They're from
Okay.
Bonamici's office.
That's what I'm thinking, yes, it
Thinking
was
of
not
Espen.
Senator Merkley, it was represented by Mitchell.
Yeah,
And there's a very dynamic woman named Betsy, who
But-
was Merkley's
previously.
representative, but she moved on somewhere else.
Place in the city, it's like, or in the city, Point London, I can't remember what it was.
So the only thing we have on the 24th is Terry was coming to speak about task order 4 for the strategic plan. So we can do Gustavo, 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Yeah, do him 15 minutes and then.
He asked for something, what did he asked for us to talk about federal projects, so we could give him a little more time if we only have one other thing.
It's totally up to you.
Yeah, and did you see that the deadline for federal projects came out on the Senate side?
There's a webinar.
There's a webinar coming
Yeah.
out from AOC, it's February
Yes.
25th. So it's very soon that they're wanting the federal community projects.
Oh, wow.
I thought it
I
said.
didn't
they were
realize that's,
due.
I didn't connect the dots that that's what that was.
That's what that was, I believe.
Do when?
I thought it said February 25th, and I thought that'd probably give you a heart failure.
I think you just did.
I know, I knew that wasn't gonna be good. Yeah.
But
I am planning to attend that webinar.
So a month and a week.
Yeah, which, there's nothing out about the House yet, that was just the Senate. But as we know, they typically run fairly close to each other.
And we can talk to Gustavo.
We can talk, yeah, because
Over
it
in
said,
Austin next week.
appropriations will accept requests from senators. These community-initiated project requests, also known as congressionally directed spending or community project funding, blah, 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 blah. To ensure counties and cities are aware of the federal funding opportunity, prepared to meet the Sunday, February 25th request deadline. The AOC and LLC are hosting a training webinar. I had flagged that too. So you might want to hear a little bit about what we're thinking.
Yeah.
I'll respond to him, see about getting him scheduled on the 24th first, and that's all I have for
Great.
open session.
Let's jump into the executive session.
I think Joel's coming on. Debbie.
So we're ready to go?
Does he need to give us a number, or you give us a number before we close this? What's our ORS, Joel, sorry.
Absolutely, Madam Chair. So today we're going to be going into executive session under ORS 192-660 sub 2E to conduct deliberations with persons designated by the governing body to negotiate real property transactions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we will leave this board briefing for executive session at 3:46. Any snacks under your desk? I don't think I did. I think I ate them all. Sorry. Had to go shopping again.